Welcome to the Three Guys Podcast, hosted by Brian, Derek, and Brett. Today, we also have Biggie Smalls with us. Derek, can you show us your shirt?
Now listen, you're going to love this shirt.
Baby. That is a cool Biggie shirt.
It is. And you know what? You can't see it until you go in the mirror. I go in the mirror, I can see his face.
Brian, I'm going to need for you to do that as like a YouTube exclusive.
I know, that's going to have to be an exclusive.
Yeah, I'll probably get whacked with copyright after that one.
Oh, I miss the music from that era.
Oh my God, you're not kidding. Without a doubt.
I got a thing to start this episode off. A nice little question for you guys. If there's one leader in the world, could be whoever, who would you want to work for as your boss? Like, who would you want to be your boss? Inaz? There's some deep.
That's not an easy question.
Well, I won't say that is sort of a tough question, Brett. But I will.
You know, Brian, I think I can answer for you.
No, it's not who you get.
No. The person who owned Boston Market.
That woman. Yeah, that was a great episode. That was a fantastic. I'll tell you the management that the director or the boss that I've always worked best for, Brett, has always been the one that's been the most honest with you, hasn't been passive aggressive, has told you where specifically you need to be, like numerically. And I'm in sales, so we're very metric driven and numbers driven and dollars driven. So they've always been very clear with, hey, here's where you're going to finish. If you don't finish, here are the consequences. Not losing your job necessarily, but the overall big picture of the pressure that's going to be on us and all that kind of stuff. So my current bosses are all fantastic in that regard. But in past years, in different jobs that I've had bosses that I didn't know if they liked me or didn't like me. I think they did, but they were always pretty reserved. So I would say for the bosses that are out there that are always honest with their employees, motivate their employees and inspire their employees. And there's a difference between being a manager and being a leader. And that's a whole different show we could do. So I'm certainly someone that enjoys the leader, not the manager.
So there's no one like you read in like a book. Like I get it. Like you've worked for a ton of bosses, but it's not taking anything away from them. But like if I think of someone for myself, I think of like that book I read on Disney with Robert Iger. He's the guy I would want to work for. Just like his story and how he came up. He's the type of dude that you're like, I want to work for this dude.
So I'm gonna laugh. You're gonna laugh when I tell you who it is.
Yeah, I'm gonna probably laugh too.
You're gonna laugh too.
You're probably gonna laugh. Well.
You know who I'd work for is a guy like Vince McMahon. The more I've been listening to this podcast, this something to wrestle with, and you find out what kind of person he is. He's a billionaire, but he connects with the talent that works for him, and they are very opinionated on him, and you can tell the people that like him are the people that he believed in and he knew could take their gimmick, as they say, and make something of it. The ones that they wanted him to write their entire script and all that stuff, those ones ended up going to the wayside. But you have these guys like The Rock, another billionaire, or maybe close to it, who took the gimmick he had and just crushed it. And you had someone like Vince who, hey, if you believe in this, here's what's going to happen. It goes back to what I'm talking about. Vince was always honest with these guys, whether they
live for your wrestling. You live.
But I told you guys give me grief for it. But
no, I don't live.
Why would you give me grief for it?
That's kind of, it's funny. When we end the podcast, I'll probably think of 10 others. And
this podcast is meant to give you grief. Otherwise, it wouldn't be fun.
Dave Ramsey, he's another one. Just his leadership and his guidance and the way he's goal oriented. So.
Derek, what do you got?
You know what? I don't. You guys
doesn't have to be a boss either. Like this could be someone that was, I don't know, whatever. Like he could be anything.
I mean, if I look at a CEO or something like that, I would say probably like maybe Mark Cuban.
That's a good one.
If it's someone just basic on the street. I mean, like The Rock doesn't have anything, but he seems like the most down to earth person you're ever going to meet. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So if he ever was to run something, I think he'd be a great person to work for or work around. He's very motivated. He motivates everyone else. Look what he does. He branches off and does so many other different things. He's got a TV show. He's working out. He's got movies. I mean, he's just out there and out there. So someone like that would just motivate the rest of them, motivate me at least.
Yeah, I
say,
think
you know what?
It comes around to, I think there's the person that you named, the person that Brian named, the person I named. I think it's that people person, those people skills. That's part of
Yeah, you want to work with someone who's
right?
got people skills and is not a complete jerk, because then it's just what you don't want to work for an ass. You're not going to gain anything from that, And
So Brett, was it Disney? Is that?
Yeah, it would be that Robert Iger guy. I was so after listening to that book, I did the audio book. He just everything he did was, what he learned along the way from his bosses. He points out some of the really good things, and he points out the things that he necessarily didn't do the right moves on. And someone that's pretty, like they're being honest with you, saying, "Hey, I screwed up. I didn't do this right, and this is what I did do right, and this is what I learned from this." I mean, he talks about there was when Disneyland, there was like that issue with the kid getting like killed by the alligator. He talks about that and how he was literally like they would. I can't remember if he was in China opening in that new Disneyland out there, but he talks about how he worked with his team, his media team, his marketing team, and he's like, I got to do this call. I got to talk to the family.
Yeah.
And that's someone that cares about not only his people, his customers, his employees. And
well, you look at these companies that have gone through major crisis, like you go way back to like Tylenol, for example. And I can't think of off the top of my head more recent stuff, but there's probably hundreds. You look at the very top in terms of how are they handling it. I remember when I was taking public relation courses and marketing courses in college. That was 20 years ago. That's the first thing you learn, Brett, is you got to become a people person. You got to bring yourself to where these customers are, and you got to connect with them. And that's the same thing as your employees that are dealing with the issue straight ahead. So
you think that's where a lot of bosses go wrong?
By not what?
Like that, like what you just said?
Yeah, some bosses like to separate themselves and kind of, I remember in New York, I was visiting an insurance company, doesn't matter which one, and the CEO had his own elevator.
Yeah.
He would kind of go up. So you think about that, and then you have the CEOs. I remember for a hotel company I used to work with, and you'd go to lunchroom and there was a CEO eating just with the folks,
I mean, that's it, because,
everyone has different.
Chris is in the waiting room, but I mean, to end that, it's basically the ones you want to work with, the CEOs, are the ones going to get down and dirty with you, right? The ones that are not approachable, who's going to work with them? I can't work with them. I don't think most people can, but the ones who get down and dirty and want to say, "Hey, listen, I'm not going to tell you to do something that I wouldn't do." Yeah. And those are the people you want. That's it.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.